Good afternoon. Today is Sunday, June 8th, 2025, and this is the weekly Bitcoin price forecast, looking at where Bitcoin went in the last week and where it could potentially go in the future. So we are still off to a pretty good start for June. We had a little bit of downturn last week, but overall it still bounced up pretty well. I talked about it potentially running back down to 100,000 to retest it one more time. It did that, and then it just turned right back around, and now we're at 105. And it touched as high as about 106. I mean, we're pretty much at 106 right now. So price is going pretty well. We see that we're right here, and it did come back down to that 100, and then now it's peaking up. And so really, like I've been talking about, there's not too much above this that's going to stop price from advancing. You had a fantastic April, a fantastic May. I think we're going to have a great June as well. It just, unless there's just some crazy event, but even still, I mean, with crazy events, still, you had like the tariffs and everything here, like global economic uncertainty. But still, in the midst of all of this, you've had three fantastic months. Well, at least two fantastic months in a row, and really not even a lot of drawdown. Like with all things considered, so you had a pretty bad February. March really didn't go anywhere, and then like it's just been on the uptrend ever since. So like you see this loop right here. Prior to, it's like, okay, well, price goes down for a while, and then it swoops up. Or it'll just range here for months and then it goes up. But I think we see now that price is just going to continue on without making less and less frequent stops. There will be less frequent stops along the way, and they'll just continue to push on to the upside. So the moving averages really don't make a whole bunch of sense to look at on the monthly chart. Actually, what I can do, maybe I won't do that right now. But essentially, you have these different moving averages that are the 50 and the 100 month moving average. If I put some lower time frame moving averages, like this may make a little bit more sense because I'm sure they're just kind of bouncing off of these areas. So maybe something like the 21 or some other type of lower time frame moving average, but we'll see. You can just kind of use the weekly for that. So this is the weekly chart, and just like I'm talking about bouncing, right? You had this period where the moving averages were all kind of equal, actually. But what you want to see in a bull trend is that a bull run is that these moving averages are diverging away from each other. They should be getting wider and wider and wider. As they start to converge and get closer and closer, well, that probably means you're getting close to the end of any trend, really. So it's like, you see these, we see we're at the bottom of this trend here, and that's what kind of gave me confidence that, all right, well, these are all tight right now. So any type of movement above here could be the kickoff that leads to another bull run, which is exactly what happened. So again, this is the weekly chart. We're above 104, which seems to be a pretty strong holding ground. This was around the all-time high area up here. You'll see that more when we turn on the drawing. So continue on to the upside. Let's turn on the drawing and see what we got here. And you'll see that we're pretty much in that current all-time high zone. So I did not mean to move that. So we can almost at this point ignore all of this down here because it doesn't really. It's not really into effect. So anything below or anything above the short-term holder realized price, we see that it held all the way over here. It came up, it held and pushed up past here. So short-term holder realized price is important. It did temporarily break down, but realistically, it was just going to the bottom of this channel. So we see this huge channel that's on the upside. It just broke there, and then now it just, we see it continuing on. So we're in a much steeper range at this point. Like, we see here, like once it gets to going, it really gets to going. So yeah, that's good to see. That's good to see for sure. We're in a good spot. I talked about it last week. We are definitely in a good spot here. So I drew this orange area. We'll see it better on the daily chart, but this is somewhat of a support area. And we see that even last week when I said that we could go down to 100, that was very possible. And we did go right about down to, what did we go to? We went to a low of $100,377. So it did come back down there and tap, and we'll see that a little bit better on the daily chart. But right now for the weekly, not too much to talk about. We're in this kind of current all-time high zone. And then you have like this little dip that came below here. And then, well, I mean, like that was the former all-time high. I guess I should put that. So previous all-time high. We can change that now. Yeah, so it's good. Daily chart. This is what I'm going to talk about. You'll see very much so that these moving averages are important. We see here. I was talking earlier about this convergence and divergence of the moving averages. So once these moving averages start to converge and kind of all get to the same price, well, that's when you start to see areas of, all right, well, we're probably going to take off here pretty soon. and then you see that it continues on to the upside. So I mean that's kind of cool to see how it plays out in real time. So when you start seeing the moving averages all converge in an area, that's probably a signal that there's going to be some type of breakout, some type of expansion. So you have your contraction and then you have your expansion, which is for the bull run. So let's even go back here. So again, you had all of these. This is 2024. The moving averages got very close, and then they expanded. And you're just looking for that over and over and over again. And I'll show you one more. So you go back to 2020. I think the last time you saw like the real kind of lift off was you see these moving averages get very close, and this is just a range, and it's not a whole bunch. So this is from August to this is August to I guess October, and it just ran all the way up there. So that's just a pattern you can see. So what that tells me is we still got a lot more room in the tank because we just finished converging a couple days ago. So that was 420. 420 somewhere around here in late April around Easter time. That was the peak, I guess, convergence. And then we just, move on to the upside. So I think there's a lot more expansion this way. I do believe that we're going to hit the top of this channel again. I don't see anything that would stop that. Probably one more bounce down to like 106 or something. Or just some type of retest of an area or a moving average. These will move up as well. So it'll probably come back down to like 110, 113. We'll see when we get there. We take it week by week. But after that, once it breaks out of here, you'll probably have some type of retest, and then it's just off to the races. There's nothing to hold it back, no historical precedents after that. We are still in a kind of a range here historically, right, of price being able to be held. But once it breaks out of there, like I said, around 120, then stuff starts to get silly very quickly. It gets very silly very quickly. That's the daily chart. We see that this support area did hold. I mean, you had a little peak below here, but then it just came and met the moving average, and then it went up. So what I see now is that we are currently breaking out of this kind of downtrend line, and it's on a Sunday too. So we've had a good Saturday, good Sunday. So maybe a little pullback here on Monday before we continue up. There's that line right there. We'll just see that a little bit closer on the 4-hour chart. So yeah, you see this trend line here that we can kind of pull this way. It's now on the top of it, maybe a small retest at this point. You got the moving averages right here. They're all pointing up. And then you see that moving down. So that ends up coming down, maybe one more retest to fill that Saturday, Sunday gap, that weekend gap. And then we're up. We're up from there. You'd have to retest the support one more time. But now at this point, like last week, somewhere around like 6.2 Sunday, the 200 moving average on the 4-hour chart had not fully gotten up to here yet. So now this is a huge line in the sand. Like this is a pretty big line in the sand. And like what we talked about earlier from this convergence and divergence is this is how you see the uptrends and downtrends. So if price is above the uptrend at this point and these prices are converging, that means it's probably in the range that we're going to do it again. We're going to move up again. So this is cool. I'm going to get back more into day trading at this point. I think we're going to start seeing some absolutely rapid price action. But that's pretty much all I'll talk about on the charts. Like this is cool. Like this, we're in a very good spot. We're at a key area with so many moving averages, and this historical white line right here, your escape velocity line, I like to call it, because we're finally starting to break out. You've broken the trend line. You're above support. You're above the short-term holder realized price. We're in a good spot, y'all. We're in a fantastic spot. So that's all I'll talk about on this chart. Let me see. Yeah, and then I'm not gonna talk about the charts anymore, but not too much in the news this week. You do have the inflation coming up. That will come up on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, June 11th, and they're expecting that inflation actually should increase a little bit. So I don't know if that's from tariffs and those are finally kicking in, like, a lag effect. There's the lead effect and the lag effect. So the forecast is for it to go up. But when I say up, it's still quote unquote, because like we're still in this range of like 2 something. So it doesn't really change. It's not bouncing. It's not trending for real like it was here. If anything, we're in somewhat of a downtrend. So that like 2.5, that's normal. We weren't in any type of rapid uptrend like we did when we printed literally trillions and trillions of dollars. So yeah, 2.3%, 2.5. We'll see how that shakes out. Nothing else really of consequence this week. And then next week is when things get dicey. So seeing a policy rate, BOJ policy rate, the Bank of Japan, I've been following them for months. I think they're a key to a lot of things globally. as well as the Federal Reserve on the 18th. The federal funds rate comes out, and we'll see. I'm expecting some type of. I mean, they could very well hold. They could hold here. It is very risky for them to move in either direction, and there will be downstream effects whenever it is that they decide to do that. So for right now, they may just hold, but 4.5% is where America's currently at. We've been holding that for the past 4 months, so it could be if they decide to cut and maybe take it down to 0.25, 4.25 or 4. We could see a lot of movement very quickly, and things will start to pick up with rapid speed. So that's kind of what it for this one. Not too much this week. You have inflation this week, and CPI, and then you have your federal funds rates next week. So those are for both Japan and the Federal Reserve. So we'll see where that goes. Bitcoin reserve risk is something I like to look at. This is a Bitcoin Magazine Pro. They have a lot of good charts. Most of them are free. You can do some paid ones, but the free ones are good enough too if you're just casually observing and seeing where the trends are going. This is this is very interesting to me because realistically the reserve risk is it's a combination of several other indicators. So all these Bitcoin days destroyed, Bitcoin value destroyed, HODL bank. It combines this all into one metric, and it does so in a very nice manner. But you see here, green is good. Green is good. It's a good time to buy, right? So the reserve risk is very low. There's no risk here at this point. As opposed to, let's say you want to get in December of 2017. Well, buddy, you're going to lose a lot of money because Bitcoin went down to 3,000 after that. So when you're in this red zone and things are really heating up and everybody cares about Bitcoin and you quote unquote hear it from the shoe shine boy, well, that's when it's probably a good time to get out. It went from 1,129 all the way to $200 here. That's an 80% loss. And you don't see as extreme losses here, 16 down to 15, which is still about a 75% loss. That's huge. But what I do see is that we've stayed in this zone for much longer than we have historically. Before actually peaking off. We haven't even gotten into the white zone yet. It barely peaked here in early 2025. But then just kind of stayed. So I think I'm waiting for us to at least get here, and then get up here, and then maybe potentially get up into the red zone. We'll see. But until then, it's still a fantastic time to buy. You've had a long time from 2022 all the way down to current day, and it's still been in the zone. So good times ahead. Last thing I'll talk about is just a list of companies that are holding Bitcoin. So there are 21 in America at least. Well, actually, no, they do this globally. There are 51 public companies holding more than 100 Bitcoin. Combined, they have a holding of 767,000 Bitcoin. So what is that out of 21 million? 767 divided by 21 million. That's 3%. Is that 3%? Yeah, that's about 3.7%. Of the Bitcoin that they hold just between companies. Wow, that's literally right there. I just did this on the calculator, on my hand calculator, but it's literally sitting right here. The value of the U.S. holdings is $81 billion, and that's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to grow. So what I would say here is my favorite is GameStop. GameStop is going to do great things, but also if you can get your hands on MetaPlanet or get some exposure to MetaPlanet, I think they're going to do great things. When you look at it, MicroStrategy owns the majority of these Bitcoin, and 580,000 Bitcoin. That's humongous. We're about to breach into 6 pretty soon, probably by the end of this year, I would say. And it's just an active strategy. People buy the stock, buy the shares. He takes out debt and fiat and buys Bitcoin, which in my mind is a fantastic trade. Now, obviously, you don't want to concentrate too much into one holding. But, if he's the one who's bold enough to do it, I say let him do it. MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor, this is kind of it visualized, and this is the last thing I'll talk about. So this is all those same companies you saw in the other one. You see MicroStrategy dominates here in terms of companies. And then you have the Bitcoin miners, Marathon and Riot. You have Global Digital Galaxy Holdings. I want to say they're miners as well. I can't remember. CleanSpark, 100% they're a miner. Tesla, Coinbase, Exchange, GameStop, who are new players in the game, they will buy much more Bitcoin. I know they will. So Bitcoin will probably flip. It could flip Tesla. It will definitely flip Coinbase, but they're going to go above 10,000. So Bitcoin will be one of the larger holdings in the future going forward. So I'm sorry, yeah, GameStop will be one of the larger holdings. So you see in Canada they got quite a few, and then ROW means rest of the world. So really, obviously, America is dominant in Bitcoin, and it's just going to become harder and harder to get your hands on Bitcoin at this point. So it's really kind of a cool thing to see overall that the rest of the world they are, and maybe they don't even need as much, but they're holding a growing amount of Bitcoin. You see it in Canada as well, but United States is by far just blowing everyone else out the water. So I will end it there. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. I think it's going to be pretty exciting with some things moving forward and us breaking out of historical ranges. But other than that, y'all, I hope you have a good week. This has been Chris Talks Crypto. Check out any crypto-based resources on christalkscrypto.com, and I will see y'all on the moon. Take care. Bye-bye.